Sweden has a gun problem. The number of fatal shootings in the country more than doubled between 2013 and 2023. And it now has the second highest rate of gun crime deaths in Europe. I'm Anelise Borges, and on this episode of The Stream, we ask, what's behind this?
Broken shards of glass hang like jagged teeth from a shattered window. Inside, colorful children's posters decorate the wall. A criminal threw an explosive device into a child's bedroom. This isn't fake news. This is a daily occurrence. Gang criminals have vowed in secret chats to make 2025 the worst year ever for bombings. Only Albania has more gun deaths than Sweden. We are in a low-intensity civil war. Yet Swedish media still plays word games. Gate explodes in Nacka. Did the gate self-destruct? Miss shooting in Växjö. A miss because the bullet hit the wrong innocent?
That was a member of the right-wing populist party, the Sweden Democrats, blaming the violence gripping Sweden on lax immigration laws and multiculturalism. But not everyone agrees. Many say the responsibility lies with government policies that have isolated minorities for decades and point to rising inequality and poverty as underlying reasons. Joining us to discuss all that are Nadim Ghazale, a former police officer and the operations manager of Nattvandring, Rissa Seidou, an officer who made history in 2006 when she became the first ever black female police officer in Sweden, and Camila Salazar Atias, a criminologist and one of the country's foremost experts in gang crime. All join us from the capital, Stockholm, today. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being part of the stream. Nadim, the gun murder rate in Stockholm was 30 times that of London back in 2022. I mean, the stats paint a very dire picture. But from your experience, how bad is this problem?
The extreme gun violence problem is really bad. We have a big problem with it, and there are key reasons behind it. In many cases, now we have a situation in Sweden right now that children are leading children in the criminal world, and when law enforcement cracked down on the organized crime through operations like EncroChat and Sky and we locked in many high-ranking criminals, we left a vacuum that was filled with very, very young boys that was leading other young boys, and it turned out to be like a criminal war against, of course, with narcotics and the finances in the middle of it.
We're going to talk a little bit more about the causes, because obviously this is a multi-layered situation. But Camila and Nadim just touched on this. According to data from the Swedish National Council for Crime Prevention, the very worrying aspect of this is that those involved in this kind of crime are getting younger and younger. I mean, in 2022, 45% of all suspects in gun-related murder or manslaughter offenses were aged between 15 and 20. Would you say social media has something to do with that? And from your experience, is that trend the same for other crimes or specific to gun-related gang violence?
Well, I would say it's at Fryshuset, where I work, we work with youngsters, and we have seen the development in it becoming younger and committing this kind of crimes. And the problem, I would say, or part of the problem at least, is that the criminal gangs, some of them, because, you know, there are so many different, but some criminal gangs have started using youngsters as a tool or as a gruesome way of using violence as one of their prime ways of getting, putting pressure or acting in the criminal world, where they're using even younger that don't have the capacity or the ability of understanding what's going on and what's the repercussions of that, and also because of, they won't be as punished as harshly as adults. So that it's a trend that is very worrying, and that social media, of course, what the role of social media there is that they can reach kids that before maybe wouldn't be reached by these gangs, and they can also lure them in and manipulate, and also make them very quickly make them end up in very, very difficult situations with a lot of where they don't know how to get out of.
Yeah, because as you said, they're young, they're not exactly equipped to actually fight back. Rissa, the Swedish police have identified a number of vulnerable areas, and pardon my Swedish here, but I believe the word for it is utsatta. And these are home to just 5% of the population, but are connected with the most serious violence. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Are you talking about, the area, the vulnerable area, like the suburbs, also Stockholm, or?
Exactly, precisely
question?
that.
Okay. The thing is, right now, it's not only the suburbs. If I'm talking about Jazeera, where I work, the gang crimes has not increased from 2023. So they didn't have any shooting. The thing, it became like a pandemic in whole Sweden. So it's not only the suburbs suffering about this kind of gang criminal, or the recruitment of the youth to the gangs.
So it has literally spread, basically, across the country. Nadim, what would you say? You touched on this earlier, but walk us through some of the root causes of this violence, and also talk to us about Nattvandring, your organization. What does it do, and why did you decide to leave the police force and go work in a different way to fight crime?
Yeah, let me start on the last question. I left the police after almost 2 decades of service, almost my entire adult life, and I'm still committed to fighting crime. But I wanted to shift focus towards more crime prevention. And today, the Swedish police simply don't have the capacity to prioritize long-term preventive work due to the escalating spiral of violence. So I left. I wanted to try something new, and my work today is like I organize people to work in strengthening community safety through local engagement, and that's what we do by organizing a lot of adults to be in the public spaces, because a lot of adults in public spaces also reduce the risk for criminality and violence, and they also add the feeling of safety. So that was the latter question. The first question, if you want me to answer it, I can go on, but I don't know how long you want me to speak.
Well, just give me a few of the most pressing issues that should be addressed in terms of a solution that are basically causing these young Swedes to go out and join something from where it's very hard to return.
Sweden's current state of severe crime and violence, it's not a mystery. It's simple mathematics, because crime doesn't emerge in a vacuum. It's a result of accumulated risk factors over a long time. We have 4 decades, almost 3 decades. Too many young people have grown up in environments where risk factors like over time, risk factors like poverty, social exclusion, school failure, family breakdowns, lack of trust in authorities. The risk factors have by far outweighed the protective factors like strong communities, meaningful opportunities, and early intervention. When the balance on the total tilts towards risk, the outcome that we see now, it's inevitable. We get more crime, and now the things that we're seeing now is the consequences of like 30 years. 30 years backwards, we are seeing the results right now.
Camila, would you say you agree? These socioeconomic factors are actually what constitute the risks of ending up in crime.
Well, I agree, but there is a controversy to it all because generally the crime rates in Sweden are actually going down. So in general, kids and youngsters are committing less crime than before. We have, so the spiral is the violence spiral connected to gun violence and deadly gun violence, and now also with explosions and that kind within the criminal or the gang criminal environment. So that is the complex part of it. So why is that happening and how come? And that has been happening since we saw the first trend shift in 2013, which is 12 years ago. And so from our point of view in Fryshuset, this is what we have been talking about and being worried about for more than a decade now. And it's problematic that people are reacting to it as it started happening yesterday. Just like Nadim said, there is structural problems that we haven't addressed, and we have addressed it as only the symptoms, and as symptoms like they were just isolated to certain areas or certain neighborhoods or even certain gangs, and by just looking at it as an isolated problem, we have failed to address the real problems or the problems that are connected to prevention and even promotion. And I think that's where we are still, and we need to understand that the police, Rissa would probably say the same, is that we can't keep on putting kids in prison or in juvie or whatever, because they keep on coming, so because we're not addressing the root causes, and that's the root causes is what Nadim is talking about. But the root causes of feeling part of society and feeling not as a problem but as a solution, or not as a lot of times. Because of the rhetorics, I would say there's a rhetoric in place where we're talking about kids migrating to Sweden as a problem and not seeing them as a resource to Sweden. And for decades being pointed out as the problem, well, it in the end, you feel like, when am I going to be part of Sweden?
And on that point, Rissa, in February, Sweden made international headlines when Rikard Andersson attacked an education center and killed 10 people before killing himself. The majority of the victims were from foreign backgrounds, but politicians tend to, most of the time, blame Sweden's migrant communities for rising crime. Can you talk to us about that, about the difficulty of growing up as part of a migrant community in Sweden?
First of all, that school was my school, so I was very sad when that happened. And also, when we're talking about the rules of the gang criminal, Nadim mentioned a lot of things. And also what I find out, like this law demands and also lack of parental involvement, because in my country, or where we come from, we use violence for like education, but in Sweden it's not allowed. But we can't replace that with something else. We take the power from the parents. Also, it's kind of, you don't recognize yourself in the society, as you say. Are you a part of the society? No one is trying to help you at school, saying that if you're born in Sweden, for example, they put you in a special class that you're going to study Swedish like second language, which is not allowed. Also, you are trying, it's like a low demand from the teachers, which is kind of discrimination. I don't know what to call it. It's also one thing. And also about the rules or the cause of this gang criminality, we have also this drug consumption. Who are taking drugs? It's not the people from other countries. It's not the foreigners who are using the drugs. They sell them, of course. It's very easy money. They need those money. Why do they need those money? We need to answer to those questions also.
We spoke very briefly, Rissa, before the show, and I wanted to ask you the same question I asked you then, because you talk about how difficult it is to integrate, to become part of Sweden.
It is difficult because
And
You don't
how
find
come
yourself in the society.
how come you're a success story, right? To what do you attribute your success?
First of all, I have two strong parents, and at the same time, I found two people who believe in me. I say when they put you like they have low expectation on people, that's make you feel like you don't have any kind of, how do you call it, intelligence, because they see you like, oh, you can't make it. It's better for you. They try to guide you like it's better to study to become like a cleaner. That's one example. I mean, if you don't have people who know the society very well, who believe in you, somebody need to believe and trust you that you can make it and give you that possibility. But if you don't have that, you can't succeed.
So the expectations are so low that people just aim
very low.
Very low.
Yeah, very low.
The
and
current...
also,
sorry, go
thing,
ahead, Rissa.
When you are too brilliant, it's also a problem. Then you're not Swedish because you act differently. So I don't know how to behave or how we from other countries should behave because you're too brilliant. That's also cause a problem.
Yeah. So you shouldn't shine too much either. That's a very interesting aspect of the culture. I wanted to ask you all about the solution and how to fix this problem, because it seems that you guys all have answers to this issue, and I wonder if the government is not listening. The current Swedish government has gone so far as increasing the amount it offers to migrants to leave by 35 times, and is set to start giving those that agree to go home up to $34,000 as of next year. Take a look.
If you are offered $34,000 to go back home, would you take it? If yes, why? If no, why not?
Yeah, I don't want to take it. I make my own money. I work in Sweden, and I pay for taxes, so I don't need anything from them.
Okay.
So if I want to just go back, I want to do it by myself. Yeah, I would like to go back, but I don't want to take anything. In Framtid, after 2 years or 4 years, I want to go back home, but I don't think it's a good idea to offer the people money to go back where they come from.
Rissa, you were just laughing as I read the introduction, so clearly this is not the answer.
Of course not. Sending people back home. I mean, most of the children who are involved in this criminal, they are born here. They are here to stay. They are not leaving. So giving them or offer the parents $35,000 go back to their country is not going to help. They should do something else. That, like my colleague Nadim said before, prevention is the the best weapon to fight
this.
That's
right?
my answer, and I have different answer to that.
Nadim, how easy is it to conduct the work that you're currently conducting? Are authorities, the government, but also law enforcement, is everyone on board when it comes to the work that you do and try to operate in different ways in these areas with the people affected?
I would like to say that the leaders in the crime prevention area right now are the civil society, but also the huge and large companies. Everybody's trying to pitch in to do their part in to reduce the amount of criminals. And I just want to comment on what Camila said before. She's absolutely right. Crime is going down, but the problem is that the criminals that we have that are doing these, the criminals in total are fewer, but their crimes are worse. So that those crimes, like gun violence and explosions, they got a lot of media attention and also harm a lot of people. So the impact on one crime is much higher, even if the total is going down. And that's also, it affects our perception of crime and safety. So I would like to say that the police are doing everything they can, and also the government, I guess they're doing everything they can, but in my opinion, they're working too much in the lock them in kind of the repressive part of it. I don't know the English word for it. I would like to say more balance. Like, of course, we should lock in the criminals. Of course, we should give the police to investigate and to law enforcement to do their work. But we also have to tilt the balance that I talked about before in the mathematics of crime. We have to reduce the amount of criminals that are growing up. So when we lock one in, we don't have three ready to fill its place. That's the main problem. We're only working in one bit.
Camila, you said it. You've been talking about it for over a decade. Why is no one listening?
I think the problem is that working with prevention is counting things that doesn't happen. And that doesn't give you that much votes. You know, if things will not happen, well, how do we prove that they didn't happen or they could have happened? And I also think we all get a lot of it's too complex. And too complex means that we have to work in many places at the same time, which shouldn't be that complex. It's just, you know, like Nadim said, the school, we have to look at school, the social services, work. How do we get kids and others into work? Especially people that come from other countries. We talk about them not, you know, we need to have a better integration, but for that, the country we are in need to be more, you know, inclusive and open doors and be able to give that chance to the kid. And of course, if the door keeps being closed and we don't get in the end, it's like, what are we supposed to do? And a lot of kids that we meet at Fryshuset, we work with them in disengagement programs and exit programs. They talk about, you know, how they don't want to live off on society, and it's controversial because they don't see, they see that when they do crime, it's a better thing than to live on social services.
Very well said. How come the society creates this space for these young people to go that way? Rissa, I want to give you a chance to react to that, but also, if you can, what would you say is the best way to include minorities, to make people feel as though they are part of Sweden today?
But it's easy. First of all, we don't need to have that kind of suburbs. They need to change that, try to mix people. Because me as a foreigner, if I want to learn Swedish culture, how do I know about Swedish culture when I don't meet Swedish people? One thing. The second thing, like my parents, when they take them, the power of them to be parents, they became like nobody, no respect. I will not respect them. I want to see my father live in the morning, go to work, or I want to see my father to be involved in my life, because they don't have that kind of life in Sweden. They live by themselves. But we live like families in where we come from. And also it's very important for the Swedish society or the politician to try to get to know other culture, because it's very important. It's become a part of Swedish culture. Or they wanted to know because we are here to stay. As I say, I gave a reference to France before. I said people who came to France, they speak French before they come to France. Then they can easily speak the language. And the second thing, the French also know some African culture. But in Sweden, every new culture is new. Then they don't want to know about it. They don't want to find out about it. It's like everyone has to become like Swedish. How? Because they are demanding for me as a Black woman to become a white person. I can't, because I behave in a certain way. It's become like a danger for the society, which is not normally. So I think there are so different things we can pull up and talk about the whole day according to this kind of gang criminal, how we build up the society. For me, it's very important, not only the job, to give the people the chance to understand what the Swedish society, how the society works, how the institution works. People don't know about it. It's become a work, what I do. I answer phone. I mean, after I finish work, it's not my business to help people to get job, and also to try to guide them where they have to apply if they need to study something special. And also, I think it's very important to give those youth the possibility to show that they have the capacity. Because what we are doing now, we are taking from them their honor, who they are. Camila
Their self-esteem as well, right? Their self-esteem and their values. And it's very interesting what you're saying. It's a two-way street. Is getting them to be part of Sweden and also for Sweden to be a little bit more interested in these people and where they come from. Rissa, Camila, and Nadim, thank you all so much for your time. Unfortunately, we have to wrap up, but thank you for being part.
Keep the culture, but have a part of Swedish society also. I think it's not harming anyone if you keep your culture at home and you have the Swedish culture. It's just make you very rich. I don't see it as a problem.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, Rissa, Camila, and Nadim, for joining us here on the stream today. And thank you all for tuning in. Stay in touch with us online. You can use the hashtag or the handle AJStream, and we will look into your questions and suggestions. Take care, and I'll see you soon.